It's time to go over Child's Play. Look at that cover. You see it? It's one of those covers where it changes. You see that? I don't think... Can you? I don't know. Whatever. Child's Play is the 1988 film, the year my parents were married, about a doll that gets possessed by a serial killer named Charles Lee Ray. And this doll slowly becomes more human as he's in the doll, and he must transfer his soul into the first person he's revealed his true self to, which is a 6-year-old boy named Andy Barkley. And that's the story.
I don't believe it. I just don't believe it.
Child's Play stars Brad Dourif, Alex Vincent, Chris Sarandon, and Catherine Hicks, and is directed by Tom Holland and written by Don Mancini, Tom Holland, and John LaFia, who goes on to direct Child's Play 2. This movie's message, according to Don Mancini, was to be like anti-commercialism. Don Mancini grew up with a dad who worked in commercials, the toy business, I think, or just commercialism in general. So this was just like a slam at commercialism, I guess, back in the 80s. The original concept for this movie was way different. Don Mancini's script got bought and changed dramatically by Tom Holland. He took the killer doll aspect and he made it about voodoo instead. I read somewhere that Don Mancini had the original idea about Chucky being blood brothers with Andy. They shared blood, like some sort of blood brother thing, and therefore the Chucky came to life that way. It was like a doll that had blood inside of it, which is alluded to, like that's like a little joke in Child's Play 2 where what's her name? Kyle, she's like, you see dolls that pee? This one bleeds. But yeah, originally the doll was going to kill Andy's bullies or something like that. So yeah, it was changed dramatically, and Don Mancini has said that he didn't like the voodoo thing that was inserted into his story, but he went on with it and he wrote a bunch of sequels, still to this day, and an upcoming TV series that have voodoo in it. Now this movie is very special to me. This is the very first franchise, one of the first horror movies I ever saw growing up. It's the movie that I always saw on the shelves in Hollywood Video. It's the movie I got for my 6th birthday VHS and then DVD. It's the movie I watched over and over and over again. This one and the second and third one especially. It's the movies that gave me the most nightmares growing up. It's the reason why I'm the horror fan that I am today. So let's talk about this great masterpiece in this week's Horror Franchise Wednesday.
Child's Play.
The biggest positive for this movie, hands down, is Brad Dourif. This guy is awesome. In this movie, he's just co-starring. Like, he's not even like the main credit. He's like the 4th name. In the second one, he is the 1st name, I think. I haven't watched it again yet. But in this one, it's just co-starring. But this franchise really becomes his in the second one. But in this one, Chucky's not really realized to his fullest, he's not at his fullest potential. They don't realize the potential they have with this character. So he's kind of like in the background and he's lurking around corners. He's more mysterious, like just hidden in this one. And he really comes out in the second one. But I like that they did that with this one because that's usually what sequels do. They show you more of the killer and things go a little bit more comedic and bigger and badder. In this one, it's the typical first movie where the killer's not seen as much, like Michael Myers in the first one, or Pamela Voorhees at all in the first one until she's revealed at the very end. But Brad Dourif steals the show. He's awesome. Just the way he yells, his laugh. His laugh's a little different in this one. His laugh is really Chucky-like in the second one and the third one and all those, especially the Bride of Chucky when he's cracking up like, what, you fucking nuts? But just his acting alone, he's awesome. I love his character. Just like I said, just his performance, his yell, when he's angry, when he's laughing. Chucky is awesome. He is Chucky. It's going to be hard for Mark Hamill to try to make it his own, and I'm not sure if he's going to try to replicate it or do like half and half, kind of sound like him, but different at the same time. That's what I would like, because I don't know, maybe. But Brad Dourif is hands down the best thing. He is Chucky and always will be. I like the mother-son relationship in this movie. The dad's dead. They get like one sentence that says it where Andy's like, Chucky told me that he was sent from heaven from daddy to, be my friend. But the chemistry between the mother and son, it's believable, it's touching, and this movie's tone is very serious throughout. It's very consistent. You got a little humor with Aunt Maggie and this cop that works with Detective Norris. Other than that, the movie is very serious, and with a wacky plot like this, voodoo, killer doll, you would expect the opposite, but it plays this tone well. Like, it doesn't feel cheesy at all. There's even great like tension building when Aunt Maggie's alone with Chucky and she's walking around and she's hearing things. When Karen's alone with Chucky and she finds the batteries. That's hands down one of the best scenes in this entire franchise. When she sees the batteries, picks up the doll says something like, "Hi, I'm Chucky," twists his head like the Exorcist, rolls under the the couch. He does that a couple times in this movie where he just starts rolling. Andy is adorable. I mean, despite his bad acting, he is an adorable 6-year-old in this movie. So therefore, you just root for him. You're hoping he makes it because he's basically the main target for Chucky. He needs to kill him. One of my favorite shots in this movie is when Karen is about to see the batteries and Chucky's just sitting in the background and just like it's not even like it's like blurry. He's like all the way in the background and you can't help but like stare at him like wondering if he's gonna move or just tilt his head or something. But he doesn't. But still, I just love that shot because you're just glued on Chucky. He's like, you got Karen in the foreground, and he's all the way back there, and you're just like, what's he gonna do? Is he gonna move? I love the score in this movie. This franchise is missing a score. You got the Michael Myers theme, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Harry Manfredini, who does the score for those movies. This movie franchise has no consistent score throughout all of them. There's a different sound in all of them. But I like the one in this one, especially when like Chucky's on screen and he's lurking around corners. He's climbing up the steps to get Andy, which is just fucking terrifying if you are 6 years old and you look out the window and you see Chucky climbing up like the fire escape ladder or stairwell outside coming to get your ass. That to me as a 6-year-old scared the hell out of me. And that really made this movie work for me too. As a 6-year-old, I was watching a 6-year-old be attacked by a doll and I was 6. So I could relate to Andy. Like, I was like, dude, I got dolls too. Like, fuck, this is scary. My sisters, I grew up with 2 older sisters, and they always had dolls. Like, those weird glass-like dolls. They weren't plastic or anything, but they were fucking creepy. So yeah, this movie was always terrifying to me. This movie always seemed boring to me, kind of, as a kid. Like, it was the most boring one, because it doesn't have Chucky a whole lot. But rewatching this as an adult, the pacing's pretty good. It's a quick movie. It's only like 86 minutes, give or take, around that mark. You add with the credits, it's probably like 80, 82 minutes. It's pretty quick. It goes through all the motions and there's no unnecessary scenes. Good character development. And I just love this fucking movie. Love it. Good pacing. The acting on everyone's part, except for, the kid, to be expected, is pretty good. I like Catherine Hicks. I like Chris Sarandon. Chris Sarandon was in Fright Night, which was another Tom Holland movie, so I can see why he chose him for this movie. Maybe they were best buds. It was like the Tim Burton, Johnny Depp. Yeah, Chris Sarandon and Tom Holland working together in a bunch of movies. But I like Chris Sarandon in this movie. He's the detective who doesn't believe, but then he gets attacked in the car, and then he's like, oh shit, now I'm on board. Another thing you can't leave out is the doll mechanics, the puppeteering of this doll. Great for its time. This is 1988. You hadn't seen anything like this before. And just the way the doll moves around, the eyebrows and the lips. You have puppeteers for every facial expression in all these movies. And it gets better in the second one and third one, but in this one, it's still, for the first one of the franchise, it's very good. They had it mastered almost in this one. And I like that, they give you this lore, this rule that the doll will slowly become more human. Like, the plastic will slowly turn into flesh. His heart will grow inside. And he actually does look more human in the third act. Once he reveals himself, he becomes way human quicker. Like, his flesh is melting off, like the plastic. He starts to feel more pain, and then he gets shot in the heart, and blood sprays out. He doesn't have enough blood in him yet to have blood when he gets his arm shot off or his head shot off. He's not that human yet, but I guess the heart grows first, according to John, the voodoo master that taught Charles Lee Ray. That's the lore that's established. People complain in the later installments well, how come his head gets chopped off and see the Chucky, there's blood? Well, because he's been a doll for so fucking long, I guess, that he has everything developed and grown inside him. So maybe that's why. I don't know. There is a lack of consistency there with the whole rule of what's going on inside the doll. Is it truly fully human inside? What's growing in there? Is it just the heart? Is it the organs? Because in some movies there's organs and blood in all limbs. In this one it's just the heart. So yeah, they do they don't stay consistent with that rule in the sequels. Now, before we go into my little nitpicks, let's go over my couple of awards. The hottest chick award, there's only one decent looking chick in this movie, and that's Catherine Hicks. I'm not crazy about Aunt Maggie. Catherine Hicks, she's the most beautiful woman. She's the single mom in this movie, and I dug her. I like her character, and she's awesome. And the Clapper Award for Best Scene is going to go to the attack on Karen. Chucky attacks her, and he calls her a stupid bitch, you filthy slut. That's the best, most terrifying scene, especially when I was 6. So I love that scene. Now let's go over my few nitpicks. First up, they use Ed Gale. He was the stunt double or just the body double for the doll whenever they needed Chucky to do something that they couldn't really do with puppeteering. So like when he's climbing onto beds or going up the stairs in like long shots. If there's long shots or he's like in the background running, it's a little person wearing a Chucky mask. And sometimes you'll see that Chucky mask for like one frame when he like goes up to like hit Chris Sarandon in the leg, like to slice at his leg, and you see just like one frame and it looks like a Chucky mask. So yeah, that's noticeable, and I don't blame them. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure what the budget for this movie was, but yeah, the puppeteering wasn't all there. It is great, but it wasn't phenomenal, so they couldn't get this doll to do everything they wanted, and there wasn't CGI back then. The rules for this voodoo thing are weird. Like, it's convenient. It's just set up to purposely bring back Chucky to Andy, because when he goes to visit John, at that point, he's done with Andy. He's done with Karen. He could give a shit less. He's after Mike, and the voodoo guy says, well, you gotta go back to Andy because you told him you were real. So it's like, oh, that's convenient. But what if Chucky put himself in like a cat or a dog? Can he do that? Like, does it have to be like a TV set? Like, what are the rules? I'm always curious about that. In Cult of Chucky, they say something like, as long as it has 2 legs and a hand for stabbing, I can transfer my soul. So they establish it in the 7th film what the rules are for what you can possess. And this one, it's like, well, can you possess a pencil? What's the rules? I do have to suspend belief, like, you have to suspend disbelief that Chucky is able to walk the streets of Chicago in the day, at night, and not get seen by anybody. Like, really, a 2.5 feet tall doll just running around Chicago doesn't get seen? Really? He runs from the children's insane asylum looking place all the way to Karen's apartment and no one saw him? Get out of here, seriously. And Andy is a bad child actor. It can be kind of annoying just the way he delivers his lines so slowly. Like, they're my good guy doll PJ sneakers. It's like, just spit it out. But he's still adorable. But yeah, it's just, his acting's not good in this one. But he's actually a lot better in the second one. I like him in part 2. Now let's get into my spoiler discussion. Let's dive into this film. Let's spoil things. Let's talk about this. First up, though, I just want to address, I've been hearing a lot of people, other reviewers, and other people saying, like, this movie was, like the first 2 acts, or the first act is like a mystery. It's like, is it Andy that kills Aunt Maggie? Is it Andy? It's like, are you dumb? There was a whole 3 to 5 minute sequence at the beginning establishing a killer who knows voodoo, and seriously? Like, whoever thought Andy was the killer? Like, seriously, let me know if that was you, and why. It's so clearly the doll. So I'll never understand anybody who saw this movie and thought it was Chucky until Chucky, like, attacked Karen. But I've heard a few people say, like, they could have, like, made this, like, a mystery. Like, is it Andy? Is he full of shit? And then reveal that it's Chucky towards the end. But no, it's, like, it's, to me, clear as day from moment 1 who the killer is. So yeah, I'll never understand those people. But I just wanted to mention that because I've heard a lot of people say, Andy was the killer, maybe. And then, yeah, whatever. So we get this opening scene, and Charles Lee Ray is being chased by the cops, and his partner abandons him. And I like how the cop car drives right by Charles Lee Ray just to get the other guy. Like, he could have, like, stopped the car and, like, shot Charles Lee Ray and then drove off again. But he doesn't. But Charles Lee Ray gets in the store, gets shot, gunned down. And I like how he's in this small toy store, and Chris Sarandon's having this hard time finding him. And, like, when Chucky speaks, his voice echoes throughout the entire store. So therefore, Chris Sarandon's, like, looking all around him. He's like, I don't know where the voice is coming from. It's like, really? It's a small store.
You hear that, you son of a bitch? I'm gonna get you for it!
And then, like, Chucky has all this time to, like, do this big old chant, and Chris Sarandon still can't find him. And then the store blows up, and you got all these, like, toys that are perfectly fine. They're in good condition. It's like the whole store, like, blew up. The glass blew out. I'm surprised Mike made it through that. But yeah, I was just wanted to point that out. Little nitpicks. Then this movie establishes this good doll line, this whole company, like they made like cereal, a whole TV show, a hammer, and a helmet, and all this shit. And then the last thing they make for their product line, like their lineup, is the doll itself. That should have been the first thing, then the accessories. I like how Andy says, like, I've already seen this episode, and then the episode ends, and it's like, you just realized you've seen this as it's over? Like, it looked like he had been watching it the whole time. He's been up making breakfast, and then he looks over and he's like, oh, I've already seen this. It's like, really? It's like 20-some minutes into it, and you just realized you've seen it? And then he sees the commercial for the doll, and he's like, holy shit, because he's seen it for the first time, I'm guessing. Because he's like, oh my gosh, I want that doll. And then he goes, and he's making this breakfast that if my son ever made the way he did it, I'd punish him and spank his ass. Because he's dumping milk all over the carpet. It is the worst fucking breakfast in bed ever. But Karen, she's a sweetheart. She acts like she likes it. Good mother. But he opens up this gift. It's a big old rectangular box, and it's the size of a good guy doll box. And what's inside? Pants. What a bitch.
You stupid bitch, you filthy slut! Did you fuck with me?
Who puts pants in a giant rectangular box? That's deceiving. And then he's like, I wanted a good guy doll. And she's like, I know, sweetie, but I couldn't afford it. Really? You know? He just found out about it 2 minutes ago. It was a TV commercial. He's like, holy shit, that looks awesome. And then he's like expecting his mom to have already like known about it and bought it for him. And she's like, I know, like maybe she was like, oh, maybe she saw the commercial before Andy and was like, oh, he's going to want this. But she couldn't afford it. So I don't know, that was just kind of weird. I was like, wait, you know how? He just found out about it like a minute ago. And this movie establishes how poor she is. She's like a cashier, like a Macy's or something. And she has a pretty nice apartment in Chicago. I thought her apartment had a lot of square footage. It looked pretty decent sized. So I was like, damn, what's she do for a living? Oh, she works at Macy's? How the hell does she afford that place? After Andy gets the doll, he's not concerned that the doll is saying more than 3 sentences. Like, that he saw the commercial. So when the doll is whispering all kinds of shit to him, like, hey, my name's Charles Lee Ray, and your dad sent me from heaven. It's like, really? You're not gonna, like, freak out about that? I would. I like how after Aunt Maggie dies and all, like, the forensics are there, the CSI and all the cops, detectives, she's just like, get out. All of you get out. It's like, it's a crime scene. You have to get out. Like, this is being investigated. You don't just be like, all right, get out. You're not investigating no more. This is my place. And they're like, okay. And they all leave. It's like, pff, bullshit. I do find it odd that there's a lethal hammer as a child's toy. Like, this lineup of toys that the good guy dolls sell is a hammer. It looks chintzy, but it whacks a wallop on Maggie's face. So it must have been a pretty solid hammer. I thought it was odd that we get to see Chucky sleep. Like, he actually closes his eyes and he sleeps. I was like, oh, Chucky sleeps? All right, yeah, I guess he really is human. I like how Mike Norris, the detective, he's like, I already checked all of Andy's shoes. And then Andy walks in, he's like, what you got on your feet? And it's like, you haven't checked the shoes he's wearing first? Really? Like, that's the first pair of shoes you check out. So it's like, really, you checked all his shoes except for the ones he's wearing. Not too good detective work. We actually see a few other students at this little daycare or kindergarten that Andy's going to have the doll. You see like 3 dolls in the background. I thought that was cool. It establishes how popular this doll is. And it's like, if they're trying to sell this idea that this doll is very popular, at least show other people owning it too, not just Andy. So I like that we got to see like other people have dolls. It doesn't make sense to me that Chucky would know that Eddie Caputo would just randomly shoot at his oven. Like, he just kicks the door open and shoots at the oven. The whole place blows up. Good thing Andy wasn't that close to the house, because Chucky could have got Andy killed in that moment. And then who would he transfer his soul to? He'd be fucked. But how did he know? Seriously, that's just convenient. It's like, I'm going to turn the gas on, and I know you're a stupid shooter who shoots at every noise because you're an idiot. But yeah, that's a lame death too. This is dumb, but it's also in a lot of other movies where like an arm is just by itself and it's attacking people and everyone struggles. So it's like, it's an arm. And in this one, it's a doll. It's like the fact that Karen's struggling with a doll. It's a 5-pound doll. I don't care if he's like developing muscles because he's human almost now. It's still a doll. So just throw it off of you. It's like, really? You can't get this fucker off you. And I like how when like Chucky, like, he goes from a plastic doll with no teeth. These dolls don't have teeth. Look at their faces. these good guy dolls. If they do, they're painted on. They're not real. But when he turns into like the doll, and he's like, "You fucking filthy slut," and he's like hitting her, he bites her. It's like all of a sudden he has teeth. I just thought that was funny. I wanted to point out. It's like he has no teeth, and now he has teeth. Which brings up another thing. I just thought of this. It's like, how human is he becoming? You know, like, does he have hunger? Is he eating? I'm overanalyzing, but it is interesting to think about. Does he have to eat? He sleeps. Does he eat? I like how Mike lets the rapist peddler go. He's like, answer her question. And then he's like, all right, you can go. It's like, he just tried to rape her. Shouldn't you book him? Like, seriously, you got nothing else to do. Just, he should be arrested. Mike's not very good at his job, I guess. And he doesn't make a lot of good decisions. Because when he's getting attacked in the car, his first instinct is to slam the gas. And he's just driving and smash it into shit. It's like, why wouldn't you slam the brakes, put the car in park, and like try to fight the attacker? And it's like, he's just slamming his gas, and then like a couple minutes later, he's like then trying to hit the brakes, but it's too late because Chucky's like messing with the brakes, and he's like blocking him. Again, how is Chucky like overpowering Mike's legs? He pushes his legs out of the way. It's like, bullshit, he's just a little doll. Interesting fact about that whole sequence, the interior shots are in LA and the exterior shots are in Chicago. And there's even a moment where you can see like a studio like light for lighting, like just sitting like in the, it's like on a crane, and it's like, that's a light. That shouldn't be there. Another little thing that made me laugh is like Karen's in Mike's car and he's like going around to like let her out. Like, all right, get out of my car. And what does she do? She starts rolling up the window instead of locking it. It's like, really? It's like, no, you can't get me out now. I just rolled up the window. It's like, okay. He just opens the door, kicks her out. It's like, why didn't you lock it? I also didn't see a rear view mirror. Like, there's no... Where was that? It's missing. And Mike Norris, being a cop, wasn't even buckled when he crashed. He's not a good cop. I like that Chucky's hair slowly turns brown. Did you notice that? Like when he's at John's, it looks brown. Maybe it's the lighting, the way the scene looks, but it's pretty orange in the beginning of the movie, and then as you get towards the end, it's like more brown. So it's like turning into Charles Lee Ray's hair. That's how I interpret it, and if that's what they were going for, good job. Because that's continuity, that's going with the rules of the lore that you set up. Which would explain why he has teeth. Maybe that's why. So yeah. Speaking of John, the voodoo t-shirt, who the fuck just keeps a mojo doll, if that's what it's called? A voodoo doll of yourself that if you like snap its neck, you can just kill yourself? And then you tell your student where it is? Chucky points it out, he's like, you know, you shouldn't tell your students where you keep this shit. It's like, yeah, you think? That was just dumb. And then, like I said before, the whole convenience of like, alright, you gotta transfer your soul into the first person you revealed yourself to. It's like, oh, we gotta go back to Andy now. Convenient. But is it a person or a thing? You know, what if he told a pencil, like, my name's Charles Lee Ray? Would you have to transfer his soul into a pencil? Like I said, rules need to be more explained. More thoroughly. I find it ironic that John the Voodoo teacher, you know, his whole, like, class is how to defeat death. And he gets killed by his own student. And then he mispronounces the word heart. He's like, it's the only way through the heart. Through the heart or heart? Once Mike and Karen get to the insane asylum, Chucky and Andy are already gone. And she's like, he's at my apartment. That's where I told him to go if he's ever in trouble. And he's like, well, can he get in? She's like, yeah, I keep the key under my mat. Really? If I lived in an apartment complex, I wouldn't just keep my key to my apartment in the most cliche spot of all, under my mat, right outside, where anybody could just walk and go, whoop, I'm going breaking into your house now. That's a stupid spot to keep a key, especially if you live in an apartment. Alright, maybe a house, I don't know. But an apartment, no, that's dumb. It's also a good thing that Karen's apartment is on the top floor and has that fireplace with a chimney, so that Chucky could go to the roof and find the correct chimney, because I assume all of them on the top floor have a chimney. But he chooses the right chimney that goes into Andy's apartment. So I was like, well, that's a good thing he knows which chimney. Another weird thing I noticed is like, the chant always changes in this franchise, but in this one it changes too, like within itself. Like at the beginning, transferring his soul into a doll, he just says, you know, a day to wait, done, blah, give me the power I beg of you. And then the lightning starts. But in this, at the end, when he's trying to do it to Andy, he has like a couple extra lines in there before he says, give me the power I beg of you. So it's like, what's the difference this time? You're doing the same chant. You're supposed to be doing the same chant because you're doing the same thing. Transferring your soul into something else. So why is the chant longer and different towards the end? I thought that was odd. I just wanted to point it out. How does Mike Norris know that Chucky's scattered in pieces in the hallway? Karen and Andy or in the hallway. Mike's like knocked out in the other room. He's in the bedroom trying to, recover from his wounds. And they shoot his head off, his leg off. And then they go into the room with Mike. And then this other detective comes, enters the room. And Mike's like, go ahead, look out there. He's scattered in pieces. How the fuck do you know that? You can't know that. They didn't tell you. And I like how Chucky's head is giving directions to the body. I mean, this is defying logic. The brain controls the body. So if the head's severed, you can't control the body. But this is voodoo, so anything goes. But I thought that's the cheesy element of this movie. Like, I think the third act is where your average moviegoer, not necessarily horror fan, you might lose them in that third act. It's like, okay, this is stupid, and then they walk out. But the first two acts, maybe they're on board. But maybe the third act, that's where it gets a little ridiculous, and like from the voodoo John thing on up from that moment, maybe it's a little too ridiculous, and that's when it's like, okay, this is cheesy. But for me, I mean, like I said, it's still consistent, the tone. But I still kind of felt like that whole, strangle him, kill them all. It's like, really? The head's giving directions to the body? That's just kind of dumb. Like, it's you. Why are you telling yourself what to do? It's like, it makes no sense. But then he gets shot in the heart, and then we have that freeze frame ending where Andy's looking over his shoulder, basically saying he's going to be looking over his shoulder for the rest of his life. He's going to be a paranoid kid, and I would be too. I'd be looking over my shoulder all the time for a killer doll. But great ending. I'm not crazy about the end credits song. It's weird. I don't think that was the right song. But yeah, whatever.
Andy, no, please. We're friends to the end, remember?
This is the end, friend.
Final thoughts. This is a great movie. Great tension. Great acting. One of the best late 80s horror movies out there. Brad Dourif's amazing. The doll mechanic puppeteering work. It's not a bloody movie at all. There's hardly any blood. The most blood you get is from Chucky. So this isn't a gore movie. It's not a slasher yet. That's the sequels that do that. But this movie is awesome. So when it comes to Child's Play, this movie is a horror masterpiece. The third act might be a little ridiculous, a little bit some conveniences, but overall, yeah, this is a great movie. So let's go over my favorite kill awards and whatnot. The Mr. Head Award for Best Kill is going to go to the Shock Therapy. The guy gets his head shocked a bunch and his face turns black. I'm not sure if that would really happen, but his eyes get all bloody. It's pretty shocking. And the Mr. Twig Award for Worst Kill is going to go to Eddie Caputo, who just randomly shoots at his own oven like an idiot. What an idiot. He deserves to blow up. And those are my thoughts on this awesome movie. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this. Hit this like button over here to support this video. Follow me on social media if you would like, and you can become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds to see more. And until next time, I'll see you soon.